You absolutely wouldn't believe it. Sometimes the gears of fate turn just because of a single minute. Imagine this. You're a 26-year-old woman who grew up in a small town and fought your way to a full scholarship, traveling halfway across the world to become a visiting scholar at a top university in the United States. Your future is bright, your family is proud. On a sunny summer afternoon, you just want to sign a lease for a slightly cheaper new apartment. You run toward the bus stop, hurrying along the way, but at 1:52 p.m., when you reach the stop, the bus has just pulled away. You wave to the driver through the window, but he doesn't stop. He's following the rules. Just 1 minute and you've missed it. Normally, this would be a minor annoyance. You'd catch the next bus, no big deal, right? But 4 minutes later, a black Saturn Astra slowly pulls up in front of you. The driver rolls down the window and says a few words. You hesitate for a moment, then open the door and get in. From that second on, no one in the world has ever seen you again. Today, we're talking about a case that continues to send chills down the spines of countless international students, the Yingying Zhang case. This isn't just a story about a deranged killer, it's a tragic reminder of how a dream can be brutally torn apart by pure, unthinkable evil. Before we talk about the monster who took her life, I want to spend a moment introducing you to the real Ying Ying, because in the flood of media coverage that followed this case, she gradually became a symbol. But Ying Ying was so much more than that. She was a vibrant, kind, and remarkable young woman with a future full of promise. Yingying Zhang was born in 1990 in Nanping, a city in China's Fujian province, to an ordinary working-class family. In China, there's a phrase often used for stories like hers, a child who rises above humble beginnings. Her family wasn't wealthy. Her father worked as a driver and her mother was a homemaker. Yet from a young age, Yingying stood out for her intelligence and determination. She earned admission to Sun Yat-sen University for her undergraduate studies and later completed her graduate education at Peking University's Shenzhen Graduate School, both among the most prestigious institutions in China. In April 2017, at the age of 26, Yingying arrived at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign as a visiting scholar. She dreamed of becoming a professor of agricultural science one day. More than anything, she hoped to bring her parents to live with her and give them the better life they had always deserved.
Wait, if she was that accomplished, why was she rushing so hard just to save a few $100s a month on rent?
Exactly. And that brings us to a cultural reality that is both common and heartbreaking among many Asian international students. For countless working-class families in China, sending a child overseas to study is a sacrifice made by the entire family. Even though Yingying received a modest monthly stipend, she carried a deep sense of responsibility. She never wanted to become a financial burden on her parents. At the time, the apartment she was living in cost about $700 a month. To her, that was simply too expensive. She found another apartment that would cost only $400 a month, saving thousands of dollars a year, money she believed could make a real difference. More importantly, many international students arriving in a foreign country for the first time share a common vulnerability, a tendency to trust authority figures, and a deep sense of insecurity in unfamiliar surroundings. Yingying had been in the United States for less than 2 months. Although her English was good enough for everyday communication, she was still adjusting to a completely new environment. Faced with a man driving a car, someone who may have appeared trustworthy, authoritative, or even pretended to be a plainclothes police officer or a helpful member of the university community, her guard was naturally lowered. That vulnerability, the loneliness and uncertainty of being far from home, became one of the key reasons the monster who crossed her path was able to take advantage of her. The date was June 9th, 2017. At 1:30 p.m., Yingying left her laboratory, heading out to sign the lease for the apartment that would save her $300 a month in rent. At 1:52 p.m., surveillance cameras captured a heartbreaking moment. After accidentally waiting at the wrong bus stop, she watched helplessly as her bus pulled away. Wearing a light-colored long-sleeve shirt, jeans, and carrying her backpack, she stood in the afternoon sun looking visibly anxious. Then, at 1:56 p.m., a black Saturn Astra appeared. Security footage showed the vehicle pulling up beside her. The driver spoke with her through the passenger side window for about a minute. Then Ying got into the car. That brief 1-minute conversation remains a mystery to this day. But later, FBI investigators believed the driver may have displayed some kind of fake badge or falsely claimed to be an undercover campus police officer offering her a ride. For an international student who was running late and still unfamiliar with her surroundings, it may have seemed like a stroke of luck at exactly the right moment. By that evening, Ying's boyfriend and colleagues realized they couldn't reach her and immediately reported her missing.
The police should have been able to identify the car right away. There are cameras everywhere on a college campus.
That's exactly what everyone thought at first. Investigators did quickly identify the vehicle as a black Saturn Astra. But in an American college town, there were countless similar cars on the road. After the FBI joined the investigation, analysts used advanced image enhancement techniques and discovered something unusual. The car's front right hubcap had a distinctive crack. Following that clue, investigators eventually knocked on the door of a man named Brent Christensen. And when I started looking into his background, it honestly gave me chills. Christensen was 28 years old, a PhD student in physics at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. He was married. He appeared polite, intelligent, and well-spoken. He even worked as a teaching assistant and had taught many students on campus. When questioned by investigators, Christensen remained remarkably calm. He told them, "Oh, I spent the entire day at home sleeping and playing video games." But when police examined his vehicle, they noticed something deeply suspicious. The area around the passenger side door had been cleaned so thoroughly that it looked almost unnatural. Not ordinary cleanliness, more like a professional-grade deep sanitization using powerful cleaning chemicals. It was the kind of thing that immediately raises red flags. After all, what ordinary person scrubs every crack and crevice around a car door until the surfaces practically turn white? What investigators uncovered next was even more disturbing. When the FBI searched his phone, computer, and internet history, they discovered a series of deeply unsettling interests. Christensen had spent extensive time browsing forums on the dark web and a website called FetLife, where he consumed content related to perfect kidnappings and serial killers. He was obsessed with Ted Bundy, one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. Even more alarming, investigators found that just days before Ying disappeared, he had downloaded an article titled Abduction 101. This wasn't a crime committed in a moment of impulse. He had been hunting. And on that afternoon, as Ying stood anxiously waiting for a ride, she tragically became his prey. Because Ying's body had not been found, investigators could not immediately charge Christensen with murder. At that point, the FBI made an incredibly risky but highly effective move. They persuaded Christensen's secret girlfriend at the time, Tara, to wear a wire and get close to him.
Wait, what? They asked his own girlfriend to become an informant. That sounds unbelievably dangerous. Exactly.
Exactly. Tara showed tremendous courage, and it was those recordings that exposed the darkest and most infuriating part of this entire case. On June 29, 2017, the University of Illinois held a massive candlelight vigil for Ying. Hundreds of students, professors, and members of the community attended. Ying's family had even traveled from China. People held candles, shed tears, and prayed for her safe return. Can you imagine this? Christensen was standing right there in the crowd. He brought Tara, who at the time had no idea what he had done, to attend a vigil for the very victim he had murdered. The wire hidden on Tara captured a chilling conversation. Looking at the grieving crowd around him, Christensen reportedly smirked and said, "See all these people? They're here because of me. They're never going to find her." Then, in a mixture of excitement and arrogance, he began describing how he had lured Ying back to his apartment, how she had fought back desperately, and how he had brutally beaten, sexually assaulted, and killed her. He even proudly referred to himself as a successful serial killer. The arrest followed soon afterward. But what happened later in court was almost unbelievable. On the very first day of trial, Christensen's defense attorney stood up before the judge and jury and said, "Brent Christensen killed Ying Zhang."
Wait a minute, what? The defense lawyer admitted guilt directly? Then what's there to be judged?
And that was what made the strategy so frustrating. The defense knew the evidence was overwhelming. Instead of denying the crime, their sole objective was to save Christensen's life and prevent him from receiving the death penalty. They began presenting every possible mitigating argument. They claimed Christensen had suffered trauma growing up. They argued he was experiencing severe depression. They suggested his wife's plans to leave him had pushed him into a mental breakdown. Their goal was to reframe a calculating and predatory killer as a troubled man deserving sympathy. But perhaps the most heartbreaking sight in the courtroom was Ying Ying's parents. Sitting in the gallery, wearing translation headsets, they listened as defense attorneys offered one explanation after another in an attempt to lessen the responsibility of the man who had taken their daughter's life. Because of the language barrier and their limited familiarity with the American legal system, the despair on their faces was almost impossible to look at. In the end, the jury could not unanimously agree on a death sentence. Under American law, even a single juror opposing capital punishment is enough to prevent a death sentence from being imposed. As a result, Christensen escaped execution and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. When the sentence was announced, Christensen lowered his head and appeared to smile slightly. Meanwhile, Ying Ying's family never received the one thing they wanted most: their daughter's remains. Later, Christensen's attorneys revealed that he had placed Ying Ying's remains into garbage bags and disposed of them in a dumpster outside his apartment complex. The trash was subsequently transported to a massive landfill, where it was buried beneath dozens of feet of waste. The young woman who had dreamed of making her mark in academia, the daughter who wanted nothing more than to buy her parents a better home, was left forever in the cold darkness of a foreign land. As we come to the end of today's story, I don't want to give any more attention than necessary to the man who will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Instead, I want to focus all of that attention on Ying Ying. In one of her journals, she wrote a simple but powerful sentence: "Life is too short to be ordinary." And she truly lived by those words. In just 26 years, Ying Ying achieved more than many people do in a lifetime. She shined with a brilliance that was impossible to ignore. She loved music and even started a band during her university years. She loved nature and dreamed of using agricultural science to make the world a better place. And above all, she loved her family deeply. This case forever changed the way many international students think about personal safety abroad. In the most tragic way imaginable, it became a reminder to everyone studying, working, and building a life far from home. Never underestimate the importance of caution. Not every act of kindness from a stranger is what it seems. Sometimes, your instincts and your vigilance are the only things standing between you and danger. Thank you for staying with me through this difficult story. I know it's a painful one to hear, but remembering Ying Ying's name and remembering the bright, hopeful young woman she truly was is one of the few things we can still do for her. Please, wherever you are in the world, stay safe. When you're out on your own, be aware of your surroundings. Trust your instincts. Take that extra moment to be careful. And when you get home tonight, send a message to the people who love you and let them know you're safe. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next story.